to the candidates. Please make sure that they are turned off. We do have electronics in the room, and sometimes we do get feedback through the microphone, so please make sure that those are turned off. I will ask that once the questions begin, well, actually once the introductory remarks begin, please refrain from any noise, any applause, anything of nature, to give the candidates the full 2 minutes of time that they are allotted. I will ask you to join me at the beginning and again at the end to give our candidates a round of applause. And that will be your time to express your thanks and appreciation for them putting themselves before the public and for their public service. We do have a couple of cameras in the room. Most importantly, Access 16 is here. They are taping both forums this evening. They will rebroadcast them. We are also going to be streaming live on the web. So if you need to get up during the forum, please be aware of the camera angle here as well as over here. Okay? Thank you again for joining us this evening, and we will get started here momentarily as a couple more folks come in. Again, thank you. Appreciate it. We will do a standard format of alphabetical order for introduction. First, I'll set results for full minutes for both introduction and concluding remarks, and 2 minutes for questions. Rotate one goes first with questions. Again, that's it. We've got a couple of seats down here in the front. Folks want to join us? I would be careful. Let me get that. Good evening from the Tom Smith Auditorium on the campus of Catawba College, and welcome to tonight's Candidates Forum. I'm Michael Bitzer. I'll be moderating tonight's forum, which is sponsored by the Salisbury Post, the Rowan County Chamber of Commerce, and Catawba College. We are pleased to have our broadcast partners here, Access 16, who is taping and will be rebroadcasting our forum, and we also have the forum being live streamed on the web courtesy of Rowan Works. We appreciate their willingness to be with us this evening. Tonight we will be having 2 forums. Our first will be between the 2 Republican candidates seeking their party's nomination for the 77th District of the North Carolina State House of Representatives. That forum will begin shortly. Following this forum and a short break, we will host the 8 candidates vying for 3 Republican nomination spots for the Rowan County Board of Commissioners. The format of tonight's forum is the presentation of a series of questions, with candidates having 2 minutes to respond to each question. Each candidate can keep track of their time with a clock positioned in front of us, and at the 2-minute mark, I will ask for time. Candidates have agreed to these conditions. We're also very pleased to have an audience with us tonight. I have asked them, and they have also graciously agreed, to the condition that they will remain silent for the remainder of the debate, except for right now when I ask them to join me in welcoming our candidates. Several of our questions come from the readers of the Salisbury Post. No one has seen the questions other than myself. Questions will be rotated between the candidates, and at the end, we will have closing remarks. We will begin with introductions from our candidates, and we will go in alphabetical order. Mr. Mitchell, if you will start us off.
Good evening, and I would like to start by thanking the Chamber, Catawba College, and Dr. Bitzer for hosting this forum. It's civic education is always good, and there's no better kind of civic education than when you can hear individuals that are running for an office answer questions that directly relate to the district that they're running for. I would be a little remiss if I also didn't thank my wife for putting up with me in general, and also for putting up with me with running in campaigns. It's not an easy thing to do, and she graciously brought my two children tonight, so I will have the distinction of having the youngest individuals in attendance tonight, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. So if they ignore Dr. Bitzer's exhortation not to squeal out, I do apologize in advance. But the North Carolina General Assembly does a lot of important things, and really one of the most important things that they do is they run and manage our state's education system. As a teacher for 15 years, I have a keen interest in the way our education system in the state is run, and I hope that we are able to get into a lot of specifics later, but I will start by saying that I've told many, and I'll continue to tell, that my children, even though they're not close to going to school yet, my children will not go to a school that teaches Common Core curriculum. And having taught in a school with Common Core curriculum, trust me, you don't want it. They've already come out and said that the math standards are horrible, that they do not train people for the science, technology, engineering, and mathematical careers that we want our state's children to be trained in, and it is something that we need to modify. That is one big goal, and that is one big thing that our state does. It's not the only thing that our state does. Our state is running through immigration reform. Our state runs our roads. Well, we run the gas taxes. I hope that during the course of this evening we'll be able to consider all of those and more topics, but I do hope that you'll consider giving me your support.
Thank you. Mr. Warren.
Thank you. Well, folks, I'm excited. Next month I'll start my second short term for my second term here in the House. And even though that starts my 4th calendar year with you, I've actually only served in the General Assembly for a total of 243 legislative days. The way our assembly is set up, it's not a full-time legislative process. But during those 243 days, I succeeded in fulfilling my 2010 and 2012 commitments that I made that I ran on. During 2010, I helped draft the legislation that ended forced annexation, was co-sponsor of the bill to remove the cap on charter schools, and passed the E-Verify law, which made it tougher for illegal immigrants to get a job here in North Carolina. Last year, I was very pleased to have no less than a dozen bills turn into law, including VIVA, the Voter Information Verification Act, which will require a photo ID when you start voting in 2016, as well as the Unemployment Insurance Reform Bill and House Bill 937. These bills will help protect the integrity of the voting process. They have helped put people back to work, and they have helped protect our Second Amendment rights. Over the last 3 years in the legislature, I've been fortunate enough to represent us in passing some of the most fiscally responsible conservative legislation in the history of North Carolina. And I pledge to you tonight that when I go back for my 3rd term with your blessing, I will use those same conservative values that we share to address the state's response to the Affordable Care Act, Common Core state standards, fracking regulations that are coming up, and Medicaid reform. So I look forward to your support, and I thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you. Our first question, we will start with Mr. Warren. Yesterday, the superintendent of the Rowan Salisbury school system publicly expressed a desire to, quote, transform the public schools by focusing on children aged 3 through high school. What do you think about her ambitions, and how would you, as a state representative, be prepared to help her in achieving those ambitions? Mr. Warren.
Thank you. Well, I don't have clear specifics as to what she's referring to, but when you start looking at 3-year-olds in education, there are plenty of studies to validate that this is a critical age in which to offer preschool, kindergarten, pre-K. And I think it's absolutely critical that we find the funding to get this incorporated and to comply with Judge Manning's mandate last year that we expand the opportunity for pre-K. Going through the high school ages or grades, I think that what we need to do there is to look very carefully at how we want to track that, because right now what we see in North Carolina here is the conclusions of the Common Core state standards being trying to implement at the same time the Senate is trying to push through the Excellent Schools program. So we need to get our arms around education. What is it we want our public education system to look like, and how are we going to make that happen? But I think it's absolutely critical that we do take that into consideration, that from pre-K through high school, we need to have a coordinated effort in education.